The marine litter space, there is so much to do, isn't there? But it's so brilliant to invite it and have this event going on so we can really kind of focus in on what we can all do for some real action. So what we wanted to talk about is a project that we've been working on specifically to tackle fishing and aquaculture litter across the Scottish Islands. But I very much truly believe that the learnings we're taking from this project can be applied anywhere and everywhere. It'll be great to kind of continue those discussions with you. The Marine Conservation Society runs a citizen science project, and I think we are all massive fans and huge believers in citizen science, that you don't need to have a PhD and be a lab coat to be able to collect vital data that can then be used for change. So Beachwatch is the name of our project. It's been running for about 30 years now, and it involves volunteers going out to adopt a 100-metre stretch of beach, or 10, as we'll come on to in a little bit. And as well as removing all of that litter, it's surveying it so we know exactly what it is that's being washed up. So this is kind of what a transect would look like. And the reason that we follow this methodology is that it follows an international protocol. Some of you might be familiar with the OSPAR Convention, a kind of agreement of parties across the whole North East Atlantic. So there's countries across the whole East Atlantic following this same methodology. So we can compare the data in Scotland and in the UK to what's happening across kind of the water. And it also then feeds into the Ocean Conservancy's data set. So it's actually being compared on a global level. So again, I think all the conversations we're having today and the learnings, they're going to be relevant everywhere. And we can hopefully share quite a lot, especially from across the UK that we've got in the room. So this is what our survey form looks like. Eesh, it's quite a lot, isn't it? It's quite intense. So thank you so much to everyone in the room who has completed this before and who has taken part. It is broken down to try and make it a little bit easier. We break it down into what material the litter is made of, and then it's put into alphabetical order. We do have an app now to help people be able to engage in that way. And this is what our brilliant team do. We've got these volunteers going out, doing these surveys, uploading all the data to the website, and then it comes to me and the policy team to look at, okay, what is the problem? What are we finding on beaches? What do I need to talk to politicians about? What do I need to talk to industry about? What campaigns do we need? How do we respond to consultations? And this is the data and the evidence base that we have that I couldn't basically do my job without it. And these are the kind of stats that we're then able to produce every year. So now we kind of release an annual report that includes all of the data from the UK, and we break it down to that country level. As most of you in the room will be aware, the Scottish Government have a lot of power to act themselves on this issue. So it is really important to be able to bring it down to that kind of country level to influence the Scottish Government. But also there are some things that are reserved to the UK government, so we want to be able to do that too. But a huge shout out to the 4,000 volunteers. Many of you are in the room here. But the stat that's probably jumping out that we're wanting to talk about is the fact that 32% of litter found on Scottish islands was fishing and aquaculture year, versus only 12% on mainland Scotland, demonstrating that we don't just need to be looking at a country level, we really need to be looking at regional and local contexts for solutions too. Now, I'm very much an ocean optimist at heart. I'm optimistic for the future of the ocean because there are brilliant people like yourselves in the room working so hard day and night, volunteering to make sure that happens. But I'm also an ocean optimist because of the joy that the ocean gives me. So I'm based up on the Murray Firth in the northeast of Scotland as well, and I get to visit the beach every day with my keen beach cleaning Springer Spaniel puppy. And I very much think it's so hard just now, isn't it? The news, what we're seeing happening to our natural world, it can be really hard to get up and keep going. So again, I think a huge shout out to David and the team for bringing us together, because even just the drinks last night was so nice to be like, we're not alone, we're all doing this together. And that is so important to find the joy in what we're doing and to be optimistic for it. So this is to show what we have done so far, the successes we have had with our beach clean data. Everyone will be super familiar with the 5p, now 10p carrier bag charge. It was Beachwatch data that helped as evidence to get that policy in place. But we don't rest on our laurels. We then track the impact of that policy. So last year was the 10-year anniversary in Scotland, and our Beachwatch data showed an 80% drop in bags on beaches. So that's really powerful for us to say to government, look, that worked. That was 10 years ago. You need to be moving faster and you need to be doing more things. But it is really powerful for us to show that policies can and do work in the right place. We've also then had more bans on single-use plastic items. We've got a commitment to ban on plastic and wet wipes. We've had the Brilliant Bake campaign ran by Laura, who's obviously busy doing her amazing thing at COP just now, but I know joined a lot of you at Week Cumbrae. Those who know me well know I've worked on the Deposit Return Scheme campaign since week 1 on the job. As you remember, that's a decade now of work. But it is due to start in October 2027 now. And we heard about cotton buds on the video there as well. We've got those banned in Scotland. And that quote there, I think, for me, is still really important. So that was Minister Marion McCallum from the Scottish Government. And we've also had commitment from the UK Government that they officially recognise Beachwatch data for policy development, which is super important for us. But that's great. And we kind of were talking about at the beginning there about, yeah, we've kind of sorted bottles, wet wipes, cotton buds. But those of us who do beach cleans, though, that's the tip of the iceberg. We've not really got into the real problem. So I've got family out of Isle Barra, my grandpa's from Arran. I've spent a lot of my childhood holidays on the islands and on the west coast. So I knew this was a problem. This is what beaches are looking like. This is how many items per 100 metres. That's impossible for volunteers to go out and do a survey. And it took a long time of working with the Scottish Islands Federation to even get an understanding as a UK charity for colleagues who were based down on the south coast of England to understand that this was the reality for so many of our coastal communities. So we kept going and we kept going, and we managed to convince them to put a project together. And we were very lucky to receive funding for the Highlands and Islands Environment Foundation and, super bizarrely, the Depeche Mode Foundation. So we did get to go to Hydro and see Depeche Mode. You've no idea where this marine litter journey can take you, because they saw what the problem was. And we were then thinking, right, we now need a project to then be able to gather that data, because we had a massive gap. Because it was impossible to do those surveys, our Beachwatch data wasn't representing the islands, it wasn't representing our rural communities. So what could we do to work together to then actually make that happen?
Thank you very much. So in addition to the support from the Highlands and Islands Environment Foundation, the Scottish Islands Federation has benefited from support from Crown Estate Scotland, Highlands and Islands Empires and Scottish Fishermen's Federation, which has enabled us to coordinate our project along with the Marine Conservation Society to really increase the number of citizen science surveys on the islands. So we've had, I think, great success with this. We've massively increased the number of surveys that have been undertaken on the islands. 2023, we had 156 surveys, which I think 2022, there was about 22-ish surveys. So we've had a huge increase. This continued 2024. I think we had just under 200. I'm not quite sure how many we've managed this year yet, but we've hugely increased the number of surveys that have been undertaken on the islands. And the findings from that really backed up what we've been saying all along, that there's a huge amount of litter on the islands. It's very variable between beaches, but there's a lot of hotspots on the islands. So the mean number of the mean number of litter items per 100 metres in mainland is in the region of sort of 160-ish, and the findings from the islands was 339, so almost double the mean number of litter items on the islands compared to the mainland surveys. But possibly the biggest difference is in the type of material that we're finding on the beach, or the sources of the material that we're finding. So on mainland, it's very much dominated by public source litter, so the likes of plastic bottles, food packaging, that sort of thing that's been dropped or mismanaged waste that's found its way out to the sea. But on the islands, we're finding much more marine industry litter. So 47% fishing and aquaculture and 12% from shipping. So the litter that we're finding on the islands is very much dominated by marine industries. So just as an example, on the right, that's the sort of typical public source litter that we're finding. The marine source litter, the marine industry litter is more, as demonstrated by colour, massively dominated by rope, but all sorts of other things as well, the majority of which are not single-use plastics. So I shall pass back over to Catherine.
Thanks, Vicki. And I think that just goes to show, so as a bit of context, what we managed to do was kind of work with the international kind of coalition on that methodology to explain the situation. Like 100 metres, it's just not possible. And by speaking to the communities and working with SIF, we kind of was like, what is possible? And they were like, we could do 10 metres like at a push. And we got agreement from OSPAR that yes, as long as it's 10 metres of a represented part of beach, we will accept that data. And that change led to that massive increase in engagement. You're all experts in this, but I think it's really important to realise that a lot of the time, government, industry, and even NGOs haven't really actually taken the time to ask the community and the people on the ground, what would make this better for you? Make that change, and then we're seeing this massive increase in evidence. Now, this slide was just to kind of highlight that we know there are established initiatives that have been working on fishing aquaculture litter for quite a while. So you'll probably be familiar with them with the Chemo Fishing for Litter scheme. That's an international scheme that's going on. That means fishers can then go out and remove rubbish for free, and there's usually skips back at the harbour side. That photo was, Lauren will recognise this, at Cairnbulk, was a massive kind of beach clean that we did with Aberdeenshire Council and Chemo, and they removed 5 tonnes from 100 metres. Again, just giving you an idea of the scale of some of these beaches. You can't survey that, but again, by being able to even just get those numbers, it starts to help tell a story. And then from the kind of aquaculture side, it has been pressure from beach cleaners like yourselves, from the Scottish Islands Federation. The Salmon Scotland, which are like the member body for salmon farming in Scotland, now do have a pollution hotline. So if you come across aquaculture gear, be it feed pipes, be it cages, you can ring that up and report it. Mixed reviews, I think, is fair to say so far, but it is actually a major win for communities to actually have such a big group like that recognise that they need to be seen to be doing something, even if they're not quite there yet on making it as effective as it could be. We've also then got the brilliant kind of networks that everyone's starting to bring together. And I think Project One Wave is going to be, and already is, one of these amazing networks to share learnings. So we've got the Scottish Islands Federation Marine Litter Working Group, which has been the group I've been able to work with on this project and get all that feedback in. And the next steps that Vicki's going to cover will tell you about how kind of co-collaborative that has been in that design process. Again, probably something new for MCS, especially my graphic design team. And I'm like, I've got some more changes. They're like, again. And I'm like, this is what it means working with the community and getting different voices and making sure you're making it the best it can be. But for me, with my policy hat on, one of the kind of main platforms I've been able to kind of push this work is through the Scottish Government's Marine Litter Strategy Steering Group. And I think this is where I think we do need a change. And I think this summit has come at such a good time. Scottish Government love a strategy. Do they want to deliver it? Do they want to fund it? Do they want to actually do something? No, but they'll print a document on the website. There's many of us in this room who are members of that group, and it's a fantastic avenue into regulators. So you've got the likes of SEPA, NatureScot, Scottish Water, Scottish Government civil servants, industry are on there. So it is great for us as NGOs or smaller community groups to have that avenue. I think we can all agree it's been falling on deaf ears for quite a long time now. So I think it is now the time for change. How can we build up the pressure together to actually get them to deliver something? And I think this is coming at such a good time with the Scottish elections next year. You don't have to work with the current government. Let's be asking all politicians, what are they going to do to tackle this issue? Let's see if we can hold them to account post-May next year.
So as I mentioned on the audience, one of the biggest problems that we're having is litter from marine industries. Unfortunately, the OSPAR form, in my view at least, doesn't really tease apart the different items well enough that we can really target exactly where the litter is coming from. So to try and combat that, along with the Marine Conservation Society, we've designed this new survey form. It's a supplementary form to the main OSPAR form, so we don't want it to detract from the main data set. However, this should give us another layer of information, and hopefully, touch wood, it'll be a much more straightforward survey to complete, so not as onerous as the full 100-metre survey. So what it does is it focuses specifically on items from fishing and aquaculture, because aquaculture items in particular are not easy to tease out of the full data set. So the way it works is we've chosen 15 specific items, and it's a question of giving a rough estimate of how many of those particular items that are found on the beaches. So hopefully this will give us another layer of information that we can really try and find some key solutions to those specific items. So fortunately, there's still challenges. There's still lots of litter all over the beaches. In the islands context in particular, a lot of these beaches are very difficult to access. the capacity of the communities to go out and clear it up is severely limited. Even if we can get people together to clear up all the litter, and there are huge numbers of people that are willing to devote time and energy to doing that, we still got to get it off the beaches. That can be very difficult. It usually requires boats. They're difficult to access and very expensive. They're also limited by weather conditions. So it's a real challenge to get this amount of material off remote beaches. There's the added problem then of getting that material off the islands. That can be a challenge. With many of the local authorities have been very good in helping us, but they also don't have sufficient resources to deal with marine litter. So that's another big problem, I should say. And then even if we do get it off the islands, most of this type of litter ends up in landfill. It's in large quantities. It's not suitable for energy for waste. So a lot of what we're collecting off all goes into landfill, which is not ideal. So we're also trying to work with various groups in order to try and get some of this material recycled. But particularly in Scotland, there's a lack of big recycling, or there's a lack of recyclers that can deal with a lot of this material. So some of it's being sent down to England, which again is not ideal. So we're looking for more solutions that can be done more locally, hopefully on the islands, to get even small scale material recycled in some way.
Really?
So I think that pretty much sums up what we wanted to say. Other than to say thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much to Project One Way for allowing us to come and speak to you. We do have copies of our literal lotto form if anybody's interested in taking that away and giving it a go. Thanks to the Marine Conservation Society for hosting that. The data that's collected from that will go into their website. There's an online submission form, and then we'll see where it takes us. So thank you very much.